The Maxed Out Podcast, where we speak with amazing studio owners, marketers, and ancillary services to discuss fitness, business, marketing, and mindset. With over 6 years of marketing experience, Maggie Benson has helped countless brick and mortar businesses dramatically increase revenues through strategic digital marketing. Now she's combining her passion about health and marketing to help fitness studios around the world grow and prosper.
Hello and good morning. So today I want to talk about something that we use in marketing to craft ad copy mostly, but any form of copy. By copywriting, if you don't know that term, that's like the words, the advertising words. We call it copywriting, which is to understand how you make an impact on your prospects, clients, and customers. We call this the transformation. So when I, as a viewer, am going through, say, Facebook feeds, and an ad catches my eye, it is usually because it is solving a problem in my life. And I mentioned this in another episode, we as human beings are more inclined to run away from pain than towards comfort or pleasure. Just having to do with caveman days and how we evolved. So when we go to write ad copy, we want to, and crafting offers and all that kind of stuff, provide a solution to our prospect's pain point. And when we're writing ad copy, we are going to focus on the transformation, meaning where are they now and where does my product, or in my case, the product of my clients, take them sooner than later. We have a hard time focusing on long-term gain. That's why if you ever focus on or do any work on goal setting, Michael Hyatt's Your Best Year Ever comes to mind. He says break it down to, first he does a year, and then he breaks it down into quarters, and then he breaks it down per month, and then he breaks it down per day or per week, per day. We have a very short-sighted vision. So you don't want to be like, how is this going to transform my child's life over the next 18 years? That doesn't work. You want to say, how is this going to transform the child's life in the next, I say child because of martial arts, the child's life in the next 30 days. What does life look like for your members in the next 30 days? So to do this, we actually have a worksheet that we use in-house, that what we call the transformation grid, that focuses on how does the product or service impact people's lives. So the first element of that is we want to say, okay, where are they before? So what problems do they have before? And we use, like, write this all out. What problems do they have before? How do they feel before? How are their feelings? Are they feeling frustrated? That's a common one for frustration, given up, but maybe they're experiencing anxiety or sadness. What's their average day look like? So this is really, really vital for fitness studios because it's a time commitment. So before, their average day, probably, let's say their mother is fairly busy, and then you're asking them to commit more time to another, venture, in terms of fitness. So addressing how you make it easy for them from their average day perspective is really powerful. Then we go into status. So in some places, status will be a strong motivator. For example, I'm doing some ads and ad copy and landing pages right now for an executive yacht club in Miami, in Fort Lauderdale, sorry. And that is very much a status. They are not just selling, boat slips. They are promoting the culture and the experience and the luxury and the concierge part of it, and it is all about status. So we're going to be pulling in those kinds of elements into our ad copy to really highlight, because that's where the avatar is actually their motivator is. Their motivator will also be the proximity to the intercoastal waterways, and that affects their average day. But the biggest motivator is their status. And then there's the final one that we look at is greater good. So what your prospect beforehand, this won't apply much for fitness. So I'm just going to use a random example. The prospect beforehand usually wants to be part of something bigger, some part of their community, solving a problem, and everything like that. There's an organization out there called CEO. It's originated out of Toronto, but they're now global. And they help entrepreneurs create businesses by funding them to solve what they call the world's to-do list. And there's 10 items like world poverty and accessibility and everything like that. And they're solving those bigger problems. And so we'll reference it as good versus evil, but I don't like that term. But the greater good ties into does your service or your programs impact that. So something that comes to mind from fitness studios is if you're doing a ride for charity, like ride X 2,000 kilometers for spin classes, and ride for charity, that taps into the greater good and that transformation. Normally, when it comes to fitness, we focus on the feel. You feel lethargic, you feel sluggish, you feel fat. Anybody who knows what I mean by that. You feel gross, and then afterwards you feel energetic and excited and happy. So most of the time in the fitness realm, we focus on feel. But it is good for you to know the other levels of motivation. This does tie into Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you picked up on that, where we have to focus first on the physiological needs, safety needs, love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. It is very synonymous to that in terms of how we write the ad copy. So what we do is we get out a piece of paper, or in my case, I hate paper and I hate writing, but I type, of course. I use Google Docs. I get out a Google Doc and I start working my way through this and saying, okay, how does this product transform the prospects' lives, focusing on what they have, they feel, average day, status, and greater good. That then gives me the foundation when we go, and I will be doing an episode on this, on writing Facebook ad copy. On writing ad copy, I will go back to this and start pulling out questions. So as a little preview, when you're writing ad copy for Facebook, often the very first thing you write is a question. So, and you can't use personal attributes. So you can't say, are you tired of feeling, are you exhausted? You have to be a little bit more generic, but you can say things like, prior members came to us lethargic and dragging their feet. Little things like that. You kind of got to go third person. But that's where I'll pull it from. I'll pull it from what we call the transformation grid. So hopefully that makes sense and isn't too overwhelming. So do this. Grab a Google Doc, grab a piece of paper, work through the 5 stages on how your programs influence and change lives, specifically in the short term, because remember, we can't focus on long term. We're not capable of it. Our monkey brains aren't built that way. And write them out, because you can then reference that, when you start to listen to further episodes, when I start to talk about ad copy, now reference back to this episode about pinpointing the transformation. So if you have any questions about that, please let me know. Sometimes I wonder if I explain things well. You can always email me at maggie@meritbasedmarketing.com to ask me any questions, and let me know if you need clarification. In the next episode, next week, we're going to talk about your power offer, which is essentially how you can stand out from your competition. And we're going to start to pull everything that I've been talking about up till now together as we start talking about power offers and building your sales ecosystem and growth metrics and ads and all that kind of stuff.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Maxed Out. If you'd like more information on today's episode, head over to our website at maxedoutpodcast.com, or you can find us on Instagram at health.wellness.marketing.